Come up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Microsoft insists you scrap your old working computer. Intel aggressively retires their CEO. New GPUs are coming from everyone. NZXT got called out for a predatory rental program. And the dumbest crypto scam that has ever happened has just happened. At least so far. All that more. Count today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or it's 2 a.m. Good about already. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Yes, I know. We didn't have a podcast last week. I know. Real life got in the way. Real life did a really good job of trying to get in the way all this week, too. You on the podcast side of things may not know this. We were not able to stream this live on Twitch or YouTube. We're instead streaming it to our Discord very, very poorly, I might add. But we do have a small audience watching. Smaller than normal, but it is what it is. It's better than no audience at all, and I'm sure they're going to go ahead and try to get me to talk about Chromebooks at some point, as is tradition. So we got a little bit to catch up on last week. I'll be perfectly honest. Last week's tech news, not really a whole lot. There really was like only one or two things, and then those one or two things end up being expanded a lot more this week. So first things first, there is, in fact, new reports out of a new USB Type-C cable that in fact has malicious hardware built into it. These sort of things are going around right now, and it is just kind of yet another sign that no matter how inconspicuous you think something is, someone can rig in a very nasty little surprise in it. Because you hook this up just via, just for electric only, you're fine. You hook up your actual device to it. Now you've activated the data lines. Now it's unleashing a payload. So all of a sudden now, things that might have at one point just looked like a pure, innocent, humble little, charging station for the public now contains a very, very nasty surprise. And all of a sudden now your phone's running a lot slower as it's now sending all of your credentials off to who knows where. So, all those times you've heard from a security expert, like, well, I'm not an expert, but you've heard security experts before tell you never trust stray cables, only use stuff that you know where it came from. This is the reason why. It's not like any sort of malicious thing is going to have a skull and crossbones on it, or like a red flag sticking out of it, or anything obvious. The whole point of these is that they are, in fact, undetected. That is their point. That is their objective. And by God, they do it extremely, extremely well. So just your friendly reminder, bring your own cables. It's just better for everyone. Now, while here in the US, we felt it was a really cool idea to go ahead and sue Google and accuse them of being a monopoly, and now we're looking to breaking them up. Canada has decided, you know what? That's a cool idea. We should do that too. And the Competitive Bureau of Canada is currently looking to sue Google over alleged anti-competitive conduct in the online advertising space. You see, at least when they went ahead and copied their southern neighbors, they didn't just go ahead and sue them for a search monopoly. This time it's just specifically, advertising, the whole thing that search is powered by, but I digress. There is no details as of yet what they're going to be seeking or what specifically they're looking at. It is just that this investigation has now been launched and they are looking to take action against Google and hoping to, I don't want to sound completely jaded in this, but I strongly suspect all Canada is after is just a massive fine. That is what I strongly suspect is going to be coming out of Canada. And it is what it is. So what's going to happen to them? It's hard to say. at this point. So for now, all we can do is wait and see. I'm not gonna lie, with my usual non-setup here, those who are watching the video podcast that may or may not be recording correctly, because I am not exaggerating when I say that today's broadcast is super jank. It may or may not look it, but it is very, very jank. I was on the frickin' screen where there was no article up for like most of that segment. So I digress. I sincerely digress. We have to pay much closer attention to the frickin' postage stamp of a preview window we have in this jank safe mode setup. Meanwhile, Microsoft. Oh, Microsoft. Support for Windows 10 is coming to an end soon. People who are still using relatively usable computers, like myself, for instance, I'm using 2 desktops that well exceed the average. Our audience apparently, I think we're back up now. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it was just like, nah. The Discord thing we're trying to broadcast this to so we have an audience just like kicked me off the stage. I don't know why. Very strange. Very, very strange things. Anyway, Microsoft they're going to be ending support for Windows 10 soon. All right. We all know this is coming. We've got a little less than a year now. And in fact, the biggest problem is the fact that there's tons of computers, I myself am one of them, that are completely capable of running modern stuff perfectly fine, but do not have the trusted platform 2 hardware in them. Microsoft is saying that even though end of support is looming, you must switch over to one of these TMP 2.0 pieces of hardware, or else you're just going to go ahead and find out that, yeah, we're not changing what we want to do at all. It is non-negotiable. If you want to go ahead and be on the latest stuff, and keep in mind, if you're playing modern PC games, yeah, you're going to be on the latest and greatest stuff, because DirectX, whatever ends up coming out, is not going to support older versions of Windows. It's inevitable. It's either that or you're switching to Linux. It's one of the two. It's very annoying. There's no other way to say it. Now, with this all said, what are the options moving forward? Your only options right now are just bite the bullet or just go unsupported for a while. I'll be perfectly honest. My goal is to just, when moving forward, go ahead and just keep running Windows 10 until it makes no sense anymore. Evaluate whether the machines are worth upgrading. See what the state of Windows 11 is, because, things like, I already forgot what the name of it was. Recall? I think it was Recall. Things like the recall feature from Windows 11, where it takes a snapshot of your computer every few minutes and then allegedly stores it securely, I'm not a fan of. I hate the idea of it. I really, really do. Not a fan. And I think we'd be better off without it. I'd rather see those features gone. Not disabled, not opt-in, gone. That thing is a security risk. And I'm not going to lie, if it's still there by the time I have to make the switch over to Windows 11, yeah, I'm probably going to switch to Linux, because this is not acceptable in my eyes. And I do have other options. Before someone says, oh, switch to Mac, my hardware is not compatible with Mac. Oh, switch to Chromebook. You know how stupid that statement is. Don't you be throwing dumb statements like that at me. Yeah, see, before I even said it, before people in chat said it. Buy a Mac. My hardware literally is incompatible with Mac. Mac does not have the amount of IO. It does not support my capture cards. There is OBS for Mac, but I would have to get a Mac Pro to have the IO I want, which means that my cost of entry is $8,000, which is unacceptable. That just is what it is. So take that, Mac fanboys. You can't do it all. My very specific use case is just like, nah. Oh, and by the way, if you thought that you could just safely ignore all of the upgrade to Windows 11 now, I got bad news for you. Microsoft is confirming that they are, in fact, stepping up their campaign to a massive degree to get you to switch to Windows 11, or else. What does or else mean? I don't know. Will Windows 11 actually be like good? It's maybe. The thing is that like you ask most people, it's just like, oh, Windows 11 is fine. No. It's a step back. You've been conditioned to believe it's fine. Because let me ask some. All right, those who have been using Windows 11, name one thing Windows 11 does better than Windows 10. I actually legitimately want to know. Because as far as I can tell, as someone who does use Windows 10 and 11, the only thing Windows 11 does better is that it's different. And that's it. It takes more resources and will let you have security updates. That's it. Not a fan. Still, in fact, not a fan. Though I'd love to have the conversation of whether it is or isn't better moving on down the road. Though, of course, everything with Windows 11, if you're going to say anything, it's most likely going to involve AI. Because everything is AI. Everything. Your search results are AI. How you found this podcast is going to be AI. I'll be AI. You'll be AI. We'll just all contribute to the dead internet theory as we go outside and wonder how to touch grass as AI selves continue doing stuff on the internet. Everything's going to be AI. Everything. For worse or for worse. Speaking of, I forgot to put in my list of things to talk about today. Twitch wants their streamers to go ahead and support the new collab tools they put out, and to go ahead and get their people to collaborate with each other. They offered the ability to unlock a cat wearing a Christmas hat. The cat, however, being very, very blatantly AI generated with impossible reflections or looking into the sun with the way it's reflecting off its eyes. The tongue fusing into its bottom rows of teeth. The whiskers coming out of nowhere and curving in ways they shouldn't, or just whiskers weaving into the face and then out the bottom of the chin, the ear fusing in with the hat. Yeah, the more you look at it, the worse it gets. It's just, I don't think tech guys realize just how bad AI generated art looks when it is like appreciated in any form of detail. It's like from a distance and at a glance, AI art holds up. The moment you observe it for more than 15 seconds, it just comes crumbling down every time. Right now, Twitch is in the middle of catching a lot of heat for this because first off, a lot of people don't like the collaboration tools that Twitch has implemented, but also B, your freaking Twitch. Do you have any idea how many how many different art streamers there are that would have loved to have tried to make a cat in a Christmas hat emote for a contest? It would have been massive. You could have done that, gotten goodwill out of the community, etc., etc. It would have been fantastic. What do? Good job, Twitch. Good job. Meanwhile, though, World's Lab AI can now generate interactive 3D scenes from a single photo. Oh God, this is gonna be something. So World Labs, for those who don't know, this is an AI company that is trying to use generative AI to, from scratch, generate video games on the fly. Early iterations of AI generated video games has been, I'm not gonna lie, it has been really, 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 really funny watching like AI Minecraft have no sense of object permanence and just deciding that, you placed down a block, and then because you looked down at the block and looked up, there is now a house that spawned out of the single block, and many other incidents like that. Like, this seems to actually just be like the phase of AI products. Like phase 1 for AI projects, it doesn't work. Second phase, it does work, but it works so poorly that it's actually really, really funny how well it doesn't work. Stage 3, someone on the team gets a single instance of it working correctly, hypes the ever-loving heck out of it, and then suddenly everyone throws money at it because they believe it's a finished product when it was one instance of it, whereas the current product is still hilariously unusable and hallucinates all the time. 4, it works pretty well roughly 80% of the time. There's still a 20% chance that, in fact, the AI, instead of giving you a great news report, will instead talk about something that never happened. And then finally, the final phase, which we have yet to see really so far, the product works as advertised. I would say most projects are in phase 3 or phase 4. Very few, if any, have gotten to phase 5. I would say certain iterations of ChatGPT have been phase 5 worthy, where they have worked a decent amount of the time. But from a legal standpoint, here's the biggest problem with AI. What happens to all the work that these companies skimmed from actual creators that they just took without permission? Like, what happens there? Are they just SOL now forever? Are you just going to ignore the fact that these things happen? What does this mean for artists? It's one of the tough questions that, quite frankly, a lot of people just want to refuse to answer in any way, shape, or form. And that is definitely a question that is going to need to be answered very, very soon for the future of AI in video games. Like, even for the most part, most of the stuff that's been coming out is still just a cool, you did the thing. Why? I actually don't have it in my notes for this one either. And you're going to think this one was, oh my God, you're not prepared for this at all. No. I actually did leave this out of my notes intentionally. OpenAI has announced they have 12 days of announcements coming out regarding AI. I am intentionally not talking about any of them yet because I'd rather wait for them all to be out. Just saying. So there is a decent chance we might see some very interesting stuff, or we're going to point and laugh at OpenAI for yanking everyone around by a leash, going for a walk around 12 little sticks that they wanted everyone to look at. You know, whichever one you think it is. We're going to take our first break a little early here. When we come back, I want to get to Intel and what the heck is going on with their CEO. Don't go anywhere. We will be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Yep, it's December. It's that time again. We gotta bring out the good old classics. Speaking of good old classics, Intel got drum up an old classic. The old classic being get rid of your current CEO. Yep, Pat Gelsinger, who was Twitch's. No, Intel. Twitch might be looking at a new CEO. I'm not going to lie. But Intel has announced the retirement of Pat Gelsinger, who hasn't been on all that long, to be perfectly honest. He's been around for about 5 years at the head of Intel. Started off as an engineer, now CEO, and is now looking to retire and step down from the board of directors. I'll just tell you this right now. This was not I think it's time for me to head off to greener pastures and retire sort of things. This is you're retiring sort of retirement. Currently, Intel has just been taking too many L's in a row. And Intel is taking the policy of someone has to go and pay for what has happened. It is painfully obvious that is what's going on. And quite frankly, I don't think it's very fair for this to happen to Pat Gelsinger, just because you couldn't have expected him to do a whole lot in the amount of time he's had. A massive shift has happened at Intel to go ahead and bring more and more and more fabrication business to the US to reduce the amount of reliance on Taiwan and TSMC. Of course, that all came at high costs, but then go ahead and say, oh, well, we lost a lot of money, and the last two CPUs were kind of mid, in the middle of a massive shift, and that first GPU doesn't look too great either, so bye. Now, I, for one, have this kind of policy when it comes to management roles. Getting rid of a guy doesn't matter. What does matter is, can you get someone better? It's irrelevant if Pat Gelsinger is just too terrible to keep on. What matters is, can you find someone who's better? That's what's truly important. Now, of course, I'm reading into this as, assuming he was kind of shoved into retirement. It is very possible that he, in fact, did step down willingly, does actually want to go ahead and head off to greener pastures, just phrased it really, really poorly, and it just looks like, from the outside looking in, that, in fact, this was a shove out. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it actually is exactly what it seems like. Well, it's almost irrelevant at this point. All we can do now is see who Intel hires. Right now, Frank Yeary is named the interim CEO. They are still looking at this time for someone new. Meanwhile, though, new announcements have been coming out. We do have two GPUs coming out of Intel very soon. The Arc B580 and Arc B570. These are both mid-range GPUs, and you know what's exciting about these? GPUs, you might be thinking, here we go again. I can't wait for my GPU to cost exactly 90% of my computer. That's great. $900 for my GPU. I remember I could get a whole computer for $900. And don't you dare say, okay, boomer, because that was 5 years ago. So suck it, youngster. Intel, remember those days too, where you could go ahead and actually get a lot of bang for the buck when it came to gaming compute. That is why the B580 starts at $250, and the B570, we don't have a price yet, but it's going to be under $250. They're both going to be cheaper than the cheapest GPU options from AMD and NVIDIA that are viable. What? A GPU upgrade that's affordable? Before we get too excited, though, we should keep in mind, we don't know how well they're going to perform. The Intel Arc Alchemist cards performed very poorly at launch. Very, very poorly. Their drivers did, in fact, keep improving more and more and more and more and more. But it doesn't change the fact that, well, it was kind of difficult to convince anyone to go ahead and use these GPUs that really stunk with older games and even some newer games. So it's going to be curious moving forward. How will these work? And not to keep saying it over and over again, but we will have to wait and see just exactly how well these GPUs launch. Although, someone kind of messed up though and showed off in the wild an Intel Arc B580 GPU from Gigabyte. That's now just out there. They were going to try and give it away or give away something. I don't know. I'd go ahead and take a look at their VOD of the podcast they had, but it's gone for some unknown reason. I wonder why. Yeah. Someone messed up over there. That being said, though, the GPU does look pretty sizable. We saw from other pictures that they're going to have a pass-through. And, yeah, I can't wait to see the benchmarks. That's just kind of all there is to it. When push comes to shove, that is what really matters here. What do the benchmarks have to say? In other stories from the rumor mill, AMD's RDNA 4 GPUs, the RX 8000 series, is going to have completely redesigned from the ground up real-time ray tracing cores. Right now, AMD ray tracing is bad. There's just no other way to say it. It is terrible. Just straight up. It's not good. No one really should be using it, to be perfectly honest. But we're starting to see games, believe it or not, that require real-time ray tracing. And before you start going, oh, you can't do that. Oh my God, you can't require real-time ray tracing. Are you mad? That's like new technology. You can't require real-time ray tracing? Guess how old real-time ray tracing is now. Go on, guess. Just guess. We're going into year 9 now. Chat actually was over. Year 9 of NVIDIA bringing real-time ray tracing out to the masses. At some point, for developers to go ahead, someone said, oh wow, it felt way longer. It must have happened in 2020. Yeah, considering 2020 is well known to last 20 years, yes, it happened during 2020. I'm going to tell my kids and grandkids that in the year 2020, because everything shut down, they never changed the date, and 2020 actually lasted for 8 years. That's going to be the new thing. Because of the global shutdowns, no calendars ever got updated for 8 years. Totally. For real. That's why it felt longer than it actually was. But no, the technology's been around for a while now. It's now getting very, very, very mature. And at some point, much like with older technology of, like 3D rendering or shaders or, pick a GPU technology, at some point, it's going to be considered standard. Real-time ray tracing is now getting to that point, even though, admittedly, NVIDIA is still kind of high on their own Kool-Aid in assuming that the future is now old man. I still can't get over NVIDIA's arrogance of introducing real-time ray tracing, declaring the future is now old man, and almost 10 years later is the future is now TM finally coming to pass. The future is now. Yep, sure is. So yeah, we'll have to see if these new updated cores are going to bring AMD much closer to NVIDIA as far as capability. I imagine it would, just because I hate to say it. I don't want to be right. But I just imagine that the next NVIDIA GPUs are going to be slightly more expensive, have minimal performance increases, but be mostly powered by frame gen. And that's it. Like, I just fully expect it. I don't want to, but that's what I fully expect. All we can do and see. By the by, though, the Chinese company Maxsun is starting to get a little creative. You see, GPUs right now have a couple of things. One, the PCB for GPUs is incredibly short. Like, if I go back here to my shelf of things, there we go, and then grab a full-length GPU, these things are long, right? And before you say anything, yes, this GPU is old. Yes, there are bigger GPUs, but this is still the industry standard, including this support brace here. This is considered the maximum length of GPUs. Most GPU PCBs stop right before this fan nowadays. That means that all of this back here on low and mid-range GPUs, and even some high-range GPUs, is wasted space. So, how do you get a cool-looking GPU like this ancient NVIDIA Quadro I'm holding right here, but not go ahead and do anything stupid? Well, there's another dark secret to GPUs. So GPUs use up what is known as a PCI Express slot 16x, meaning that the slot it goes into has 16 lanes of PCI Express bandwidth. You want to know a secret? Just about every GPU out there uses 8. Whoa. That means there is 8 PCI Express lanes left in that slot your GPU is in that are going unused. What do you do? Max Sun has the answer. We're going to put 2 SSDs inside the GPU that will pass through the GPU and connect to the slot. I'm not going to lie. This is the most brilliant, stupid thing I have ever seen today. Like, it makes some sense, all right? And then on top of that, there's also some potential down the road, if this sort of design catches on, that you could use this to support some kind of, I forgot what the correct term was for NVIDIA. What was it, like direct drive or something like that? There is like a technology that they can use to directly access the storage. And it has a term. But you could use this to go ahead and strengthen that, because it's just going to pass through directly to the GPU. A lot of potential there. You know, could be very good, right? At the same time, though, you want the cooling solution of the GPU to both cool the GPU and these SSDs? It is a very, very bold strategy. I'll say that much. And when push comes to shove, we'll have to just see down the road if it pays off for them. I'm willing to bet we never see this. I'm willing to bet it never, ever gets out of the concept phase. But you got to give them credit. They are thinking outside of the box. Meanwhile, let's actually just talk about the games industry in general. Blizzard decided that they're going to go ahead and delist Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 from Good Old Games. However, Good Old Games says, bleep you, and they just went ahead and decided we're going to just preserve them anyway because we can, and you originally told us we could. Good Old Games announced quite a while ago that they were going to put forward a preservation game policy to preserve old games in the condition that they were, while still keeping them up to date with driver support, so that people could, in fact, still play things like Warcraft 1 or Warcraft 2 on modern hardware. It's a bold ambition, but you know what? For the sake of game preservation, it's hard to hate on them. It's really, really hard. Blizzard, however, doesn't like this because Blizzard is mentally ill, but also because Blizzard does have a version of Warcraft 1 and 2 that's remade that they sell, but it's not the original. Whoops. Oh, and of course, in classic modern Blizzard fashion, yes, the old original Warcraft 1 and 2 on Good Old Games, with the tweaks they've done to run on modern hardware, run better than Blizzard's remakes. Because of course they do. Why did you expect differently? I didn't expect differently. But you know what? That's just Blizzard for you nowadays. You know, I still miss Blizzard from the good old days when they were clearly all about being there for the gamer. Nowadays, they're just, they are a cash cow company. They exist for the sole purpose of being cash cows. That's just all there is to it. Speaking of cash cows, Ubisoft failed to make a cash cow. X-Defiant, which they said was going to save their game for realsies and their bacon and their paychecks and their everything, it's shutting down and they have to lay off half their team. It's just over. It just is. So what do you do? Like, what does Ubisoft have left? They have what? The Assassin's Creed game that pissed off Japan several times over, where they went ahead and couldn't do cultural research to save their lives, that even in demonstrations that they put together that were actually supposed to be viewed by the public looked like they were internal betas. Is Ubisoft going to be around by the end of next year? You start to wonder. I mean, I still have to go ahead and write up my predictions for the prediction episode in 2 weeks. I think's what we're looking at. But I'll tell you this right now. Ubisoft remaining independent, or Ubisoft no longer being independent, is going to be on there. Easiest prediction in the world. The writing on the wall gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for Ubisoft. But all we can do, get the popcorn and watch what happens to them. We're going to very quickly cover this one next. We might have to pause and finish covering it in the next segment, but I want to go ahead and do this one. This is from Gamers Nexus. Gamers Nexus has done an investigative piece looking into NZXT's PC rental program, a program I have only recently learned actually existed, and was promoted heavily by social media influencers that clearly do not know a whole lot about computers. And it turned out that the NZXT Flex program, that's what it was called, had these sort of rental computers starting at $59 a month. And as you rent these pre-builds, you can go ahead and allegedly send them in and send them back and get a more up-to-date computer. But it turned out that the specs they said they were giving you, they lied. Just straight up. The specs were lower in the case they promised. It was just all kinds of spare hardware they had put together, but then would tell you that it's higher end than it was. The kind of contracts they were locking you into, they would go ahead and advertise no commitment, but in actuality, yes, there was a commitment, so they were misleading on top of all that, and a far, 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 far longer laundry list of all kinds of shenanigans going on. If you have the spare time to go ahead and watch the piece from Gamers Nexus, I would strongly recommend it, because it's far more than I could give here in a 1-hour podcast. What's even better now is the fact that NZXT is in the middle of damage control, obviously, but they're also very quickly finding out that, people don't, what's the right word? People don't like it when things aren't exactly correct. I see. Influencers, instead of blaming NZXT for giving them bad talking points, have gone out and just blamed Steve from Gamers Nexus for bringing all this to light, which, pro tip, wrong answer, by the way. Like here, let's pretend for a minute that I am a streamer. I know it's going to be hard to imagine that, considering I am a streamer, but let's pretend I'm a streamer who doesn't know a whole lot about computers. And I had this NZXT Flex as a sponsor, and then I find out later on, like today, that in fact an investigative journalist went ahead, looked in, and found out it was a massive scam that I've been promoting to all my viewers. Here is the statement I would make if that were the case. All right, listen very carefully. I sincerely apologize to everyone that went ahead and bought into this. I was completely unaware of all of the things that happened. The talking points they gave me said one thing. The investigation clearly led into another. I have failed you in doing my due diligence in making sure that the sponsorships we have on this platform meet my standards. Effective immediately, we are no longer running these sponsors from NZXT, and we are going to move on from it. And if you have bought into this, I would strongly recommend getting in touch with your representative and working things out. If you want more information, here is the video from it, from the investigative journalist. And again, I apologize. I knew nothing. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. You just got to look and say, look, I was told this. It wasn't this. I'm sorry. We're not dealing with that anymore, because I'm not going to go ahead and spread things that turned out to be lies, because it ain't good for me or you. Shaking my head, man. You just, I'm not even that big of a streamer. I don't even do sponsorships all that often. How am I better at sponsorship management than so many of these other bigger streamers that have like thousands upon thousands of viewers? It's insane. NZXT is, of course, in damage control. They have done an interview with Jay's 2 cents a couple days ago. I haven't had a chance to watch that fully as of yet, but by the sound of it, It is a separate company that is now in charge of the NZXT Flex side of things, or it has been for a while. And there's like bad communication between NZXT and the Flex company that is causing a lot of these concerns. But NZXT is committed to taking action about this. Good luck. Everyone is watching. That's all I can say about that. Good luck there, buddy. For now, though, we wait. We see. I didn't think we'd get through that in 5 minutes. I'm not going to lie. But I guess it's also what I get for doing the super abridged version of all of the horrendous cases of tomfoolery and semi-fraud that NZXT has committed. We're going to take a 5-minute break here. When we come back, well, not a 5-minute break for you podcasters at all. I'm just too used to saying a 5-minute break, so when we're live on stream, it's always 5 minutes. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about Australia and their move for social media, and also the Hawk Tuah girl is back with cryptocurrency. Oh, yes. We have to talk about that. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. All right. How many of you have purged the term Hawk Tuah from your memory? Okay. All right. I see. Okay. Put your hands down. I can't see. What's wrong with you? Jeez. For those of you who are fortunate enough not to know what Hawk Tuah is, there was a girl a while back by the name of Haley Welsh that went viral for saying you got to give that guy a Hawk Tuah, and, well, a phrase I don't know if I can actually say on a lot of the podcasting platforms because it is lewd in nature. But this one stupid comment went comically viral. Most people, whenever something goes comically viral, they try to cash on it and it doesn't work. Mostly because when your entire personality is saying Hawk Tuah and making it sound like you're spitting on something, most people kind of just see that as going, oh, you've got nothing of substance, and then ignore you. For some reason, Haley Welsh has the third most popular podcast in all measurable statures, which really does tell me that the end is nigh. There's no other way to say it. I mean, when Hawk Tuah gal is third most popular flippin' podcast out there, not really a whole lot to go ahead and say, yeah, this is fine. Everything's fine. So, of course, what's the natural thing you do? You have a dumb podcast called Talk Tuah that for some reason is popular, that no one knows why. Anyone with a functional brain says this is dumb. What do? Obviously, you make a crypto coin. The Hawk crypto coin was made by Haley Welsh and a number of other people on her team. This was launched on the blockchain platform Solana, and its sole point was to be marketed towards people who are new to the crypto space. So, of course, when a meme coin like Hawk is launched, and everyone knows it's a meme coin, and it's even advertised as a meme coin, and people go ahead and say that, yep, it's a meme coin, what do you think happened? Do you think people bought the coin and everyone was happy and everyone's investments are going to the moon and money was generated from nowhere and the laws of economics were defied once again? Is that what you think happened? No, of course that's not what happened. Why would you think that's what happened? No, it was rugged. What ended up happening is that 96% of the Hawk coins were concentrated into a cluster of wallets, and a pre-sale was done very early on, and you can all trace it back to the blockchain. All of this pre-sales were being done from the creators into other several wallets. One of these other smaller wallets are insiders within the organization or not, it's hard to say. But when you sell off 96% of the tokens, it's blatantly obvious what's going to happen. It hasn't launched yet, and 96% of the currency is sold. Well, lo and behold, the actual launch happens. The value goes up and up and up and up and up to an estimated over $100 million somehow. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, the value plummeted. Oh my God. Yeah, the 96% of tokens that were pre-bought early in were then sold, wiped out all of the value of Hawk, and thus the rug was pulled. In addition, there was close to a 15% processing fee for all Hawk tokens. So even if the people who did the rug pulling or the sniping, or depending on whose language you want to believe, whoever went ahead and actually did the tanking of the pricing by doing a massive sell-off, the creator still made bank roughly over $1.5 million in just pure transactional fees. And let me tell you, all right, here's a couple of things. First off, they went ahead and then tried to host a Twitter Spaces to talk about what happened. These guys suck harder than anything I've ever seen at actually going ahead and any kind of PR management. The guy in charge of this whole thing, or the guy who seemed like he was in charge of this whole thing, kept dodging questions. He went on a screed early on, calling people who are in this spaces mentally ill, including himself, going ahead and saying that everyone here were idiots, and that everyone there should be kissing his rear end. It was amazing just how bad this guy was at doing what he was doing. And then, of course, the first mistake they had was talking. The second mistake they had was CoffeeZilla, well-known YouTube crypto busting journalist / analyst, was allowed up to talk. Their second mistake was letting him talk, because they were not prepared to answer basic questions like, who just made out $1.5 million in transactional fees? Who are the people involved with the pre-sale? Who owns the project? Who made out on this? We still don't have the answers to that because they just kept very poorly dodging, but we strongly assume that, all of them made out the 1.6 mil. We also know from Haley's lawyer that Haley was set to make 50% of all earnings from this project, which doesn't look good when her best defense right now would be ignorance, not knowing that a scam was about to be pulled. Because when you're about to make 50% of all earnings, that's not good. You have all the financial incentive to, get around that. So what do you do? What's the move on from here? Legally, I don't know. I'm not a legal expert in these sort of things, but fraud was clearly committed here. And a lot of people are saying, well, I don't feel bad for the victims here. They went ahead and bought into a token called Hawk. Oh man, those idiots. How could they be so stupid as to get in on this sort of thing? First off, they intentionally targeted people who aren't that crypto savvy. And despite the fact how much we talk about crypto here, here's a challenge for you. Talk to a friend that you know is not as technologically savvy as you. See if they can define the blockchain. See if they can define what a cryptocurrency is, or a meme coin. I guarantee you, they are going to get most of the answers to your questions mostly wrong. They might get something correct, like, oh, cryptocurrency, that's like Bitcoin. It's completely incorrect. That is a cryptocurrency. Oh, the blockchain, that's where crypto things go. Not really. By the way, the correct answers are a cryptocurrency is just any kind of digital token that has all of its transactions stored on the blockchain. A blockchain is a non-centralized ledger, that is the correct term, a ledger of all transactions done with all cryptocurrency completely. All people who mine contribute to the blockchain and do work to maintain the blockchain. That is the big thing right there. When we say the blockchain never lies, that's why. You cannot edit the blockchain. The blockchain knows all transactions that happen with crypto. That is why we know this fraud occurred. The Hawk Tuah coin. Yeah. So, I actually do feel kind of bad. Because it's not like a bunch of people were just like, oh man, I hope on this crypto scam I can be one of the early ones in and make a killing. Or people going and just like, oh man, I can't wait to gamble on this Hawk coin. They're people who didn't know any better. And I don't expect people to know the things that I know. I don't expect my listeners to know the things that I know when it comes to crypto. Because it's very complicated. I don't even know all the things there are to know with crypto. There's nonsense I learn on a daily basis about crypto. Things that I wish I never knew. But it's just the nature of the beast with crypto. It sucks. And it is what it is. When push comes to shove, all we can do is just watch it happen, as eventually crypto's gonna have to get regulated, because otherwise scams like this are gonna keep on happening. However, Australia, of all places, is making a huge step forward to preventing this sort of stuff from happening by putting out the world's first social media ban for anyone under the age of 16. Okay, Australia. I don't know if your Vegemite has been fermented a little too much. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how you plan on enforcing this. I'm actually very curious to know how you're gonna enforce this. I still don't know how you plan on enforcing this. Anyone who is in Australia and knows how they are enforcing this, I am legitimately curious to know whether whether the internet is now going to become a dystopian place where Big Brother is watching at all times to make sure that you are over the age of 16 when visiting Twitter, or if it's just going to be enforced exactly like I expect it's going to be enforced, which is not at all. Look, I'll say this much. A for effort. Social media is a terrible place as it is. I'd actually recommend for most people, regardless of age, avoiding social media. Not the worst thing in the world. There's just a lot of people who get a lot of horrible ideas in a lot of different ways going on social media. It's not a healthy place to be. It really, really isn't. And I feel like the only way to use social media is to dismiss half of it and then going, come on, seriously? And then be blown away when something outlandish like, I don't know, a healthcare CEO being assassinated in the streets of New York in broad daylight actually turns out to be completely true. Or, what's another piece of very strange but true news? Oh, how about the case of martial law being declared in the middle of the night in South Korea and then it being overturned in 2 hours? Yeah, that was a real thing that happened. But no, frickin' Budweiser super beer is not being put into ponds to make the frogs gay, or whatever other crazy Facebook story you found. That one is not true. Good luck figuring out which one is which, because man, there are times when fact is stranger than fiction, What was my point? Oh yeah, good luck, Australia. Let me know how that works for you. The whole keeping people under 16 off of social media. Meanwhile, though, Meta wants to spend $10 billion. Why? I'll tell you why. Meta wants to spend $10 billion to put an internet belt around the entire world. I'm only slightly kidding. $10 billion to put a subsea cable, which I assume is going to be fiber optic, to help increase all the bandwidth of the internet. Someone in chat just immediately goes, they get to monitor it. I don't know if it's going to be used for a data skimming process or if it is, as they say it's going to be, for investment into AI. Because everything's an investment to AI. No matter how I think something is not AI related, it turns out that yes, in fact, it is AI related. Ooh, or maybe it's AI related to skim data. Now we might be cooking. That might be the actual play here. But at the same time, on paper, seems harmless, I think. Meanwhile, though, we have a drone. But not just any drone. Oh, no. We have a drone that is built like a burb. A brand new bird-inspired drone made by the EPFL, which stands for something. What is the EP? What does the EPFL stand for? I actually don't know. The article doesn't want to say what it's for at all. No, without even realizing, I realized I just grabbed it from their website. Yeah, no, we don't know. We have no idea what the EPFL stands for. Someone's going to tell me and I'm going to feel stupid. But they have developed a drone that is designed to take off by jumping just like a bird. We're getting one step closer. Someone in chat just said electronic people of Florida. Clearly. I mean, if I had to guess, engineering... Okay, I got one word. Apparently, someone in chat says that the EPFL is the Swiss Federation Technology Institute of Lausanne. Lausanne? Lausanne? Something I can't pronounce. I've now tried 3 times, and I'm pretty sure I haven't gotten it in close once. The École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne is the public research university of Lausanne, Switzerland. The Swiss have developed a bird drone. We are now one step closer to the crazy tinfoil hat people saying that birds are not real and are just created by the government to spy on people. That's it. That's the joke. That's the joke right there. We're one step closer to retroactively proving those crazy people correct. Even though the drone does not contain any sort of payload whatsoever other than mechanisms for making it fly. Honestly, it's just kind of cool to see this sort of thing work at all. Like, it is, I mean, for a frickin' drone, it looks good. We're watching it right now and seeing it. There it goes, gliding. Whee! Interesting stuff. So yeah, that's a cute little thing we've seen. Can't wait for it all to start spying on us. Except though it still looks a little robotic. That being said, though, I bring you to the last bird, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you a electronic lollipop. A device that'll let you taste. The electronic lollipop will let you taste up to 9 different flavors, including sweet, salty, citric acid, cherry, passion fruit, green tea, milk, durian, and grapefruit. I'm not gonna lie, I have never tasted durian, but I imagine with how good my nose is, I would hate the taste of durian because I couldn't get over the smell of durian. The interesting thing about this device is the fact that it produces these tastes via electricity. It is not like a it's not a powder you put on there and it just like uses something consumable. Oh no. It sends electric shocks to your tongue to stimulate those taste buds and let you taste that. I'm not gonna lie. I am both intrigued and terrified because I'm sure it's low voltage, right? It has to be. Like, I'm sure there's no actual risk, but man, I would be the one that for a new diet just wants something sweet and just like slathers this freaking lollipop to go ahead and just get your sugar fix, just tricking your brain going, oh man, that was a good sweet passion fruit. Oh, that was so good. And then just turns out it's like, oh, I killed half my tongue by just overexposing it to the electric lollipop. Oh, well, I will say this much. At least we didn't go to anything too terrible or too after hours for flavors on this lollipop. Folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I do encourage you to check out my other works at twitch.tv/EagleFalcon and youtube.com/EagleFalcon. Take care, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye. My dumbass brain immediately looked at the 9 flavors that are available on this electric lollipop: the sugar, salt, citric acid, cherry, passion fruit, green tea, milk, durian, and grapefruit. And I started thinking, what is the most perverse tasting thing you could make with a mixture of these? And of course, the first instinct is salt. And then then my brain immediately went to grapefruit and was then reminded of the grapefruit technique video. And the point is that I need to consult AI on how to unthink things and induce amnesia, because I did not need to go ahead and remember that ever.